Part 1. A Sledgehammer Breaks into Pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 1. This world belongs to the sea, so it also has unique culture and customs. Since ancient times, countless people have rushed to the sea. The sea is extremely broad, and she is the mother of all the people of the sea. So whether you are a navy, a pirate, an adventurer, a merchant, or a fisherman, you are all equal in front of the sea, without any preference. In today's era, the world is roughly divided into two camps. One is the order camp headed by the world government, and its important representative force is the navy, the maritime overlord that runs rampant across the sea. The power of the navy is very powerful. Relying on the support of the world government, the navy's power spreads all over the world. But in the past 10 years or so, the power of the navy has indeed declined. According to Orgrim's knowledge, the navy under the world government has begun to shrink their power in the new world, and judging from the situation, it is very likely that they will be forced to withdraw from the new world. Speaking of this reason, it is very reasonable. Many years ago, a very powerful pirate named Rox appeared in the world. He used the opportunity of making a lot of money to gather a large number of very powerful guys under his banner and formed the famous Rox Pirates. The Rox Pirates assembled a group of top masters in the pirate field, and in one fell swoop, they consolidated the pirate camp from its original loose state of fighting independently. From some perspectives, Rox greatly enhances the pirates' power. The powerful Rox Pirates even declared their intention to dominate the world. And they did take this step. Based on the new world with extremely dangerous climate and sea areas, they gradually drove away the naval power in the new world, allowing the new world waters to enter a chaotic era dominated by pirates. However, if the first bird is shot with a gun, the tree will be destroyed by the wind. The world government has ruled the entire world for 800 years and is not easy to bully. The Rox Pirates finally capsized. In the Battle of God's Canyon, Rox, the pirate overlord, was directly defeated by Monkey D. Garp, who joined forces with the future Pirate King, the current Golden Roger, was beaten to death on the spot. Due to Roger's identity as a pirate, the world government has kept this battle secret to a considerable extent. In addition, the name of Garp's battle is not very glorious. He fought to protect the celestial dragons, and I don't want to say anything more about this kind of thing. Therefore, in the Battle of God's Canyon, there was nothing official about Roger, and Garp became a Navy hero, shattering the myth of the Rox Pirates. However, although the big chaebol of the Rox Pirates went bankrupt due to poor management, none of the shareholders, large and small, had anything to do with it. Only Rox, the chairman, died. The company was gone, and the board members immediately decided to split up. Therefore, the top pirates in the Rox Pirates all returned to their respective families, resumed their old careers, and started a prosperous pirate career. Not to mention, with this division, although the cohesion of the pirate camp has dropped a lot, the power has spread out by expanding the area from point to point, carving up the chaotic new world at an extremely fast speed, and each of them has stood on its own steady footing. On the other hand, the Navy, although they won the Battle of God's Canyon, suffered a lot of losses. Coupled with the corruption of the world government and the inefficiency of administrative operations and other reasons, it can be regarded as completely losing control of the New World sea area. It can be said that even though he wins, he still loses. Today is the year 1496 of the Hainan calendar, on the eve of a major change in the era. The heroes on the sea are vying for hegemony, and the navy is unable to control the new world. The pirates in the new world are competing with each other, hoping to compete with each other after Rox. Create a pirate overlord. The battle for hegemony among the pirates in the new world caused waves that eventually spread to the entire world, promoting further chaos in the North Sea. As a result, there have been more pirates in the North Sea in recent times. Pirates are also divided into levels. Generally speaking, they are divided into two levels, pirates who are rewarded by the world government, and pirates who have no names and no surnames and call themselves pirates. There are many subdivided levels here. Nowadays, they are basically divided according to the bounty. For example, if the bounty exceeds 100 million, you can be called a big pirate or something. If you reach the level of rocks, you can also be called a big pirate. It's called the pirate overlord. Of course, there are no such things as the 4 emperors and the 7th warrior Kai now, and the extremely arrogant title of pirate king does not exist. In the past, although there were many famous pirates with bounties on them in the North Sea, Orgrim had never met them once. Most of the people he met were gangster pirates. He just picked up a group of people and hung up the skull and crossbones flag when they went to sea. When he saw the town island, he went up to wreak havoc. If you're lucky and come here a few times, you might be taken seriously by the Navy, put a bounty on your head, and officially become an officially certified pirate. However, most pirates have no real abilities and can only bully ordinary people and scare honest civilians. Therefore, although the base is large, most of these pirates do not have the ability to become officially certified. Of course, as long as you fly the pirate flag, the Navy will arrest you. It is naturally impossible to send such uncertified pirates to Impelton, otherwise the place would have been full. This kind of pirates are usually captured, directly demoted to slaves, and sent to the world government to mine and build roads. It is said that there is a bridge-building country in the East China Sea, which is full of slaves. The source of many slaves is this way. As for another type of pirate with a name and a bounty, it will be considered a reward after being caught. The world government will pay a full reward based on the bounty. This reward also brings up a half-black and half-white pirate. The industry, whose name is bounty hunting, makes a living by catching these bounty criminals. They are considered brave, but most of them are people who are neither high nor low, and there are no particularly famous ones. Of course, this bounty is not something that only bounty hunters can claim. If the Navy kills such pirates, they will also get corresponding rewards. It can be regarded as a performance bonus. The same goes for other people, including fishermen. Oh, of course, Grim and the other guards from a remote town can also do this. Now, Orgrim has killed a pirate with a 29 million bounty on his head. As long as he reports this guy to the Navy will send someone to check it. If nothing happens, he will be promoted to a rich man in an instant. Ah! Ha 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 ha, with this money, we brothers have the capital to settle down and make a living. We will have some confidence in whatever we do in the future. Orgrim said with a smile. That's right, Beckman also smiled and nodded, but after a slight pause, he continued with some hesitation. But Orgrim, you also know what those navies in our North Sea are, 29 million shellfish. It's not a small amount, just in case they want to cheat. I paid for that with my life. If those bastards want to steal food from me, they have to ask for my warhammer. Do you really think I am someone to be bullied? Orgrim said very domineeringly after hearing this. Speaking of which, the North Sea is really not a good place. It can be said that the people of the North Sea are tough and the Navy is also very corrupt. Although it maintains stability and peace on the surface, there is a lot of trouble inside the North Sea. It has always been turbulent. In recent years, gangster forces have also become very rampant. A Don Quixote family has emerged, sweeping up the North Sea and becoming a behemoth in the North Sea. There is also the evil kingdom of Germa. No, they have been selling war in the North Sea, destabilizing the situation in various countries, and have also caused major evil events that destroyed 4 countries. With these 2 great scourges, do you think the North Sea can develop peacefully? It is because of the Navy's inaction. The ravages of the Don Quixote family and the kingdom of Germa, coupled with the tide of the times, have made the North Sea really not a good place now. If you think about it this way, those bastard navies who have allowed the situation in the North Sea to deteriorate to this point really, It seems very possible to do something stupid. Thinking of this, Orgrim looked at the long-handled war hammer placed on his wall. This was not a weapon made by Orgrim himself. It was a weapon sent by Goldfinger. It was called the Hammer of Doom by Orgrim. This warhammer is undoubtedly very heavy. To be honest, with Orgrim's current strength, it seems a bit awkward to swing it. It's hard. If someone hits it with this hammer, it will be completely dead or injured. Moreover, this warhammer also has an indestructible effect. Orgrim has used it for so long, and he has not seen any skin broken by it. The most important thing is that this warhammer comes with a skill, which is ready to go. It's funny to say that Orgrim's warhammer often has a leather sheath on it because of this skill. He was laughed at by Beckman. What if other people's swordsmen just put scabbards on their swords? Do you, a reckless man with a sledgehammer, also need a hammer scabbard? In fact, Orgrim doesn't like this either. It's a slightly funny style, but the problem is that this skill is very practical. That is, after putting on this leather sheath, the warhammer is equivalent to entering a state of charging. The longer the charging time, the greater the power. According to after years of exploration, it can take up to 3 days to build up strength. In battle, within 3 minutes after pulling off the holster, the accumulated power of the warhammer will burst out. It can really be said that you will die if you rub it, or you will be injured if you knock it. It was a berserk plug-in for Orgrim, which could greatly enhance Orgrim's combat effectiveness. For this reason, Orgrim tolerated this somewhat funny operation. If those Marines are really short-sighted and want to bully me, Hosgar wrote Orgrim, then let them know that they have brought disaster to this world and brought the Doom Hammer. Reading books on May Day will be great. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Grab a deposit now. Activity time, April 29th to May 3rd. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 2. Those damn aristocratic gentlemen in the town didn't pay that guy Beckman any serious injury allowance. Therefore, Beckman stopped pretending after 2 days of pretending to have a broken bone. Anyway, if nothing goes wrong, 29 million Baileys will soon be in the hands of the two brothers. There is a bright future for them to be rich and prosperous. Care about that little money? However, Beckman was famously smart, and of course he did everything right. Now that he realized that the degenerate navy in the North Sea might steal the bounty from these little people, he naturally couldn't sit still and wait for death. Therefore, Beckman has also been secretly planning some other options in the past 2 days. First of all, it is impossible to expect the timid nobles in the town to support these weak-legged soldiers in front of the navy. Secondly, if there really was a falling out, Beckman had already made up his mind to rob the bastard nobles in the town. Speaking of which, the two brothers were not really at the end of their rope and had no way out. Even if they didn't have the 29 million belly, they wouldn't actually starve to death at home. In the past 2 years, I have been a small town guard, especially since Orgrim has also become the captain, which can be regarded as making a lot of money in the town. For those merchant ships that come and go, we serve as guards and collect some protection fees privately. Reasonable, right? After all, if it weren't for this gray income, they wouldn't be working as guards long ago. Secondly, the two brothers used to go out to sea to hunt whales. This is an ancestral craft of the two families. As long as there is a harvest, even a whale can bring a lot of profits. Plus other miscellaneous income, such as robbery when going out to hunt whales and so on. Therefore, in this small town, the two brothers actually lived a good life. They were considered upper class and still had a fortune in their hands. The reason why Beckman and Orgrim made up their mind to make a fuss as long as the navy dared to act against the rules was mainly because these two brothers were not the kind of people who were willing to wait for death. To do something big, to be a real big shot. I had already planned to leave, and this was just an opportunity. On the other hand, even Orgrim and Beckman felt that although the 29 million Baileys would not force them to death, they were not the kind of people who could tolerate such arrogance. "If you touch my money, I will kill them. Your whole family." It has to be said that neither Orgrim nor Beckman are good people in nature. Beckman will later become one of the great pirates. It is by chance but also inevitable. As for Orgrim, he wasn't a good guy in his previous life. It's a coincidence that he also relied on the sea to make a living in his previous life. He also worked in the whaling industry, helping those ghost guys in Great Britain to hang out on the sea. They have been working for a long time, and they are not considered extremely evil, but those who work in their profession are at sea, and they will inevitably have to deal with all kinds of ghosts and ghosts. They are half black and half white, and there is nothing wrong with them. In addition, in this life, the two brothers have no adults in their respective families for a long time. They all rely on themselves to survive until adulthood, and their hearts have long been wild. It was not that they had never considered joining the Navy before, but after all, the Navy claimed to be righteous and had many rules and regulations. Both Orgrim and Beckman felt that they were not suitable for this line of work. Now this era is raging again. Orgrim has a forward vision, and Beckman himself is very smart, and he has already seen that the future will definitely be a situation where all heroes will join forces to compete for world supremacy. Looking at it this way, who would want to be a soldier in this country village? Therefore, both of them had already made up their mind not to be good people. When the time was right, they would go to sea to achieve great success and become majestic pirates or something. That's why the two of them were so unscrupulous when talking about this before. Beckman has also thought up some plans and ideas in the past 2 days. First of all, there can't be only two people going out to sea. We have to find a way to coerce some accomplices. Sailing on the sea is not an easy job. Beckman, who has experience in going out to sea to hunt whales, knows this truth very well. Being a pirate is much more dangerous than hunting whales. Whaling can only be carried out by two people. Being a pirate requires it's okay if you have a younger brother. Can't the captain and the first officer steer and row the oars together? That's so damn classy. It is necessary to take people with you. This matter is easy to handle but not easy to handle, and it is also a bit difficult. Orgrim is the captain of the town guard. He has some good players under his command. Not to mention how powerful they are, but they are basically fierce men who have seen blood. They have fought against pirates many times and have some combat experience. What a great guy. Beckman even felt that some of them were more ferocious than the fallen Navy who were just waiting to die. Therefore, this group of people can be taken away together as younger brothers. But then again, these guys are fierce, but they are also good people after all. Even if Orgrim has a certain reputation, it is impossible for everyone to go to sea with him and become thieves with a wave of his hand. Beheading is a deal. So Beckman had to make a plan and find a way to get these people on the pirate ship so that they had to follow him. Just as Beckman was fiddling with the whaling crossbow in his hand and thinking about the way out in the future, Orgrim was also walking towards the port carrying his slightly funny long-handled warhammer. Although Orgrim is only 16 years old, his figure is very strong and his height is also very prominent. He is already about 2 meters 4, and he seems to be still growing. His messy short black hair is slightly flowing in the sea breeze. His face is not very handsome at first glance, but it is definitely considered heroic, and he has a macho aura about him. "Mr. Chui, you are going to get rich now. Please take more care of us brothers in the future." "Yes, Mr. Hammer, 29 million Baileys, that's a number I can't even imagine." As Orgrim walked along, many members of the escort greeted him very cordially after seeing him. Some of them had fierce faces, and had large and small scars on their bodies, and they were also aged. He is about 30 years old, and he is not someone to be trifled with at first glance. But in front of Orgrim, the captain who is much younger than them, he is very enthusiastic and does not feel unruly at all. He is even more like a hammer lord. Obviously respects Orgrim very much. In fact, this is normal. After all, this world is a world of strength. Orgrim's strength is simply the best in the town. In recent days, it has even increased. It has reached a higher level. Didn't you see that the big pirate with a bounty of 29 million was killed by Master Chewie with a hammer? With such strength, he is probably at the forefront of the entire Beehive. Then everyone can't you maintain respect? People who don't respect have been kicked out of the team by Orgrim. Some guys were killed directly by Orgrim. This is power, and Orgrim, the Hammer Lord, he's not a guy who just likes to bully others with his power and strength. If you follow him and everyone enjoys it, what's the reason for disrespect? Ahahaha, you bastards want to take advantage of me before I even get this real money. Don't worry, as long as you work hard with me, you will benefit a lot. Orgrim laughed and said. After dismissing these younger brothers, Orgrim walked behind Beckman with a smile and asked strangely, what are you doing, innovation? Do you know how to use mechanisms? Awesome. How do I understand that? There's no mechanical skills to speak of, just a slight modification. In the future, this whaling crossbow can not only hunt whales, but also boats. Beckman smiled, clapped the huge crossbow in his hand, and said. Reading books on May Day is a joy. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP points. Grab a deposit now. Activity time, April 29th to May 3rd. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 3. Orgrim and Beckman were chatting about these gossips, and in a naval base not far from this town, some navy were also discussing this guy Orgrim. Colonel Banu, we have been chasing Spark for 2 months, and now he died inexplicably at the hands of this Orgrim. How can this be settled? A major officer of the navy stood in front of Colonel Banu somewhat unconvinced, and said with great dissatisfaction. 2 months of chasing? Haven't you even touched a hair on anyone's head in 2 months? What's more, you have the ability to kill that cunning fox Spark. Colonel Banu frowned slightly and reprimanded. After hearing this, the Navy Major's face became a little embarrassed. Yes, our Navy has been chasing Fox Hunter Spark for 2 months, but in fact it is true that he has never even touched a hair. Fox Hunter Spark is also registered in the North Sea Navy. Although he has a bounty of 29 million, his strength is not very outstanding. Mainly because he was very cunning, the Navy failed to do anything to him during several encirclement and suppression campaigns. Later, the guy planned some very cruel actions and massacred 2 villages, leaving no chickens or dogs behind. It was for this reason that he was offered a reward. 29 million Baileys. The Navy is still very interested in this kind of pirate who is not outstanding in strength but is just cunning. It can be regarded as a manifestation of bullying and fearing the strong. But no one expected that this Spark was actually planning while massacring the 3rd town. He was beaten to death by the guards there. We have already received the news and made a plan. We are just waiting for Spark to land on the island and then surround him. The Marine Lieutenant Commander spoke again. Colonel Banu glanced at his subordinate, with some disdain in his eyes. Of course he knew that this guy was telling lies about some kind of plan. They didn't even know the whereabouts of Sparky, so how could they plan a siege? What's the plan? It seemed that he saw the disdain in his boss's eyes, but the naval lieutenant colonel also knew that his colonel was not a good person at all, so he hesitated for a moment and then said hesitantly, Colonel, that's 29 million belly. After hearing the bounty, Colonel Banu also flashed a greedy look in his eyes. That Husgarot Orgrim, what's the origin? Did you find out clearly? Colonel Banu asked softly. He is more or less a smart person and knows that some people can be provoked and some people cannot be provoked. Before causing trouble, you have to find out the details of your opponent, right? Lieutenant Commander of the Navy. After hearing this, he knew that his colonel had been persuaded, and he quickly told him, "Colonel, I have already found out clearly that Orgrim is the garrison captain of Ogulin town, and he doesn't do anything good on weekdays. Many businessmen have complained about him, saying that he charges excessive protection fees and so on, and he is also engaged in the whaling business. You know, this kind of person is a garrison officer in the town, and goes to sea, that's a pirate." Colonel Banu nodded first and had no objection to this, because this is too normal and common, and the Navy has no intention of paying attention to such trivial matters. "That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, is he easy to bully?" Colonel Banu asked softly. "What nonsense does Orgrim do that's upsetting, and what does it have to do with him? The key is to see if this guy is a tough guy. If he's easy to mess with, he can make arrangements. If it's that kind of hard fight, there's no need for him to go into troubled waters for 29 million belly." As the commander and director of the Bihai Naval Base, Colonel Banu has many ways to make money, and he doesn't like to take risks. This risk? It's nothing. It is said that the boy has some martial arts, but after all, he is only 16 years old. How powerful can he be? If he was really that powerful, he wouldn't be able to get into the position of a small town defense officer. To put it bluntly, he is just a gangster. If our warship sails over, we will probably scare him so much that he wets his pants. The Marine Lieutenant Commander spoke quickly. After pondering for a while, Colonel Banu was also thinking. "Think about it carefully. What kind of powerful person can a small town garrison officer be? Are you being too cautious? Or maybe, as you get older and become the commander of this base, you no longer have the same vigor as before? Send me 15 million baileys, and you can arrange the rest yourself." Colonel Banu finally made up his mind and said. Hearing this, the naval lieutenant colonel said excitedly, "I promise to complete the mission. Although I have to give Colonel Banu 15 million baileys, I still have 14 million left. I don't dare to ask for 15 million baileys like the colonel, but I still can't afford to eat 8 or 9 million. It's a question, right? Who calls himself the colonel's confidant? Just take out the remaining baileys and share them with the people below." In the view of the Navy Lieutenant Commander, this bailey is a sure thing, and it's just a guard. He was just an official, and he couldn't afford to offend his Navy boss. Money can make all the difference, and warships are very fast. In less than 2 days, 2 North Sea Navy warships arrived at the island where the town of Ogulin is located. Here. At that time, Orgrim, Beckman, and other members of the garrison were standing at the port. Behind them were a group of noblemen from the town. Yes, these noblemen were all here to welcome the Navy. In fact, the Navy has very good control over the various franchised countries all over the world. As the most intimidating military under the world government, the Navy's authority is also very powerful. Wherever it goes, each franchised country must provide convenience and supplement it with various supplies and so on. The Navy doesn't dare to make mistakes against those powerful nobles, but in a small and broken place like Ogulin, what powerful nobles are there? Aren't they all country bumpkins? These so-called noble lords, we may be rich, but we don't dare to provoke the Navy. Otherwise, if the Navy lets 2 groups of pirates come over at will, wouldn't they all be ruined? Therefore, in the small town of Ogulin, the nobles must find ways to have a good relationship with the Navy. The Navy warships in the North Sea are really in poor condition. Orgrim bit a cigar in his mouth, looked at the 2 warships dangling in the port, and said with some disdain. "I heard that in the Navy of the Grand Line, the warships were so huge that they could sink a pirate ship with one shot." Beckman thought for a while and then said. "It's dangerous there after all." Orgrim nodded. "The warships of the 4 navies are actually much worse than the naval warships in the Grand Line, and among the navies in the Grand Line, the naval warships of Marine Headquarters Marineford are the most powerful. Under normal circumstances, unless it is a particularly powerful pirate, the Navy will basically crush the pirates. A burst of artillery fire will pass by from a long distance without even needing to meet you, and you will be done with it. Beckman did not answer Orgrim's words. Instead, he spoke very loudly to the surrounding garrison members. It seems that the Navy has sent us money. Boss Orgrim has already said that if we get 19 million Baileys, we will only take 15 million and distribute the rest to our brothers. Orgrim was shocked when he heard Beckman's words. When did I say this? Talk. Before he asked us for Beckman, all his young brothers shouted excitedly. Lord Hammer is mighty. Master Chewie is still awesome. Follow Mr. Chewie and enjoy the delicious food. Orgrim's eyelids twitched. He put his arm around Beckman's shoulders and asked in a low voice, what are you doing? If you say no to 14 million, then you won't want it. The Navy sent 2 warships this time. Orgrim, what do you think they are here for? Send money, Beckman sneered and said. Orgrim was stunned for a moment. Although he was not as witty as Beckman, he was not a fool either. He came to his senses immediately. You guys are really cunning. Now the Navy is not stealing money from our 2 brothers, but from our entire defense team. Orgrim chuckled and murmured. Ha ha ha, if you really want to go to sea, you have to have some younger brothers, Beckman also said with a smile. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 4. A group of sailors came off the warship. One of them, wearing a major's epaulets, almost raised his nose to the sky. I don't know, I thought he was the naval hero Lieutenant General Garp. Major Fink, the one with the big hammer on his back, is Hosgarot Orgrim. A naval captain quickly pointed to Orgrim and said to Major Funk. Only then did Major Funk take a look at Orgrim, then a disdainful sneer hung from the corner of his mouth, and he said mockingly, this man has a brain. Is there a problem? A broken hammer still needs to be sheathed in a leather sheath. Ha 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 ha, you are a country bumpkin. Chang Cao also laughed. Soon, Major Fink came over with a team of Navy. He didn't pay attention to the noble gentlemen who came up to show their courtesy. He pushed a few away very rudely and came to his side. The noble lord then came to Orgrim's side. Orgrim was a bit tall, so he could only look up at Orgrim. This made Major Funk even more unhappy, and he asked in a very impatient tone. What kind of Orgrim are you? Orgrim grinned, showing an honest smile, and said, yes, sir, I am Khazgaro's Orgrim. I heard that you killed that fox hunter Spark. Where is the evidence? If this is true, you kid will be rich. Major Fink sneered and said. Orgrim also smiled and waved to the younger brother next to him. The younger brother walked forward with a box in his arms. Orgrim then spoke. Said that guy's head is right here. As he said that, he opened the box. There was a dead head inside. It was so bloody that it would have stunk if it hadn't been processed. Major Fink glanced at the box with some disgust. And then a greedy light flashed in his eyes. Is it really the head of fox hunter Spark? He was actually a little worried at first, especially if these country bumpkins recognized the wrong person. Wouldn't their whole thing be in vain? Now, here we are. Look, these country bumpkins are still very discerning. But when Major Fink raised his head, he had already put away greed in his eyes, pretending to be very angry, and said, you unscrupulous people, how dare you cheating our navy? His outburst didn't bother Orgrim, but the group of nobles around him were all panicked and looked at the scene at a loss. Orgrim suppressed his anger and asked, sir, what are you saying? Where is fox hunter Sparky here? Not a bounty criminal at all. Are you unscrupulous people defrauding our navy? I found it strange that Nazbak was so cunning. How could he be killed by you unscrupulous people? Snored. Major Fink cursed very angrily. Orgrim's face also darkened. He turned his head and looked at the noble men. Anyone with a discerning eye could see what was going on. They had also confirmed a lot of things about that head. This time, there is no problem of making mistakes. Therefore, everyone knows that it is the Navy bosses who want to hack the bounty and get credit for it. But I know it in my heart, but I must have a falling out with the Navy because of Orgrim. It was not cost effective, so they all pretended not to know. Among them, there were a few nobles who wanted to get in touch with the Navy and even stood up to accuse Orgrim. On the contrary, the members of the garrison all looked angry. He looked very angry. After all, Beckman had just said that 14 million was going to be divided among them. This was reasonable. When the fight broke out, everyone worked hard and died. There are several brothers. The way the Navy is acting right now is not only robbing the two brothers of Master Chui for money, but also robbing them of money. But what can be done? They are just a small garrison. Can you challenge the Navy? Orgrim took a deep breath and slowly stretched his right hand to his lower back, as if he was preparing to take off the sledgehammer and blast Major Funk's head directly. However, at this moment, Beckman, who was standing next to him, pinched Orgrim's right hand, then winked at Orgrim, and then said with a smile, "So it's a fake?" I said, how could it be possible to kill a big pirate so easily? Thanks to the wisdom of the Navy commanders, otherwise wouldn't we have been deceived? Major Fink didn't know that he had already walked past the gate of hell. After hearing Beckman's words, he also smiled and said, "You boy can talk." After praising Beckman, he looked at Orgrim again and said, "I think you are also eager to make contributions. Forget it this time. Next time something like this happens, you must clean your eyes and see clearly, then notify our Navy. This head, we will take it back first to prevent you from causing any trouble." As Major Funk waved, Captain Cao next to him stepped forward and wanted to take away the head worth 29 million belly from the guard boy. But the guard boy didn't give it to him directly, but look at Orgrim. Orgrim took a deep breath. He trusted Beckman very much, so he suppressed his urge to kill and nodded. The little brother looked Orgrim, admitted defeat, and reluctantly handed over the head. Then the Navy seemed to have no intention of contacting these country bumpkins to build relationships or engage in any activities such as military-civilian family relations, so they accepted it. Head, without saying a word, a group of people returned to the warship and soon sailed away. The Navy men had all left, and the noblemen naturally did not want to continue to blow the wind here, so one or two of them left one after another. Some people also mocked Orgrim, a reckless man, with expressions of gloating. After everyone had almost left, Orgrim asked Beckman, "Why did you stop me just now? I can blow that bastard's head off with one hammer." Beckman smiled and said, "What's the use of blowing his head off? These bastards in the Navy are obviously here to bully us. Do you think they will have 29 million Baileys on their ships? Then let them go back like this." Orgrim frowned, still a little angry. "Why are you in a hurry? Let them go back and have fun for 2 days. When we are ready, we will directly demolish the naval base together. Won't everything come back by then? Maybe even make a fortune." A sneer hung from the corner of Beckman's lips, and he spoke very evilly. Orgrim was stunned for a moment, then laughed, patted Beckman on the shoulder, and said, "You bastard is really cruel. I just want to kill that major, but you want to directly destroy their naval base? Just us? Enough. I have witnessed with my own eyes today how rotten the Navy in the North Sea is. As long as you can take the lead, break their courage, and kill some of the commanding officers, the rest will be just trash and they will not be able to fight to the death with us," Beckman said very calmly. Then Beckman paused again, looked at Orgrim, and asked, "Are you confident that you can defeat them?" "Ha ha 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 ha, who do you think I am? I'll hammer each of these pieces of trash," Orgrim said with a smile. His tone was very confident. "That's good, but before that, let's make preparations and rob these useless nobles in the town," Beckman said with a smile. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 5. In the garrison's barracks, a group of rough guys were sitting together drinking, venting out their arrogance today. Damn it, I already knew that those Marines were not good things, but I didn't expect them to be so shameless. We brothers worked hard to kill the pirates, but those bastards just took away all the bounty and credit so easily. Mr. Chewy seems to have something wrong today. Yes, according to Mr. Hammer's temper, even if he doesn't blow that bastard Marine's head off, he still has to blow off that Sparky's head, right? That is, we can't eat it, and we can't let the Navy eat it. A strong man took a sip of wine in a depressed manner, and then said, I thought we could get 14 million this time, so I was going to go home and marry a wife and have a baby. But now it's better. There is nothing left, what a bad luck. Ha 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 ha, even if you, Hank, have Bailey, there is no guarantee that any girl will marry an ugly guy like you. Another strong man laughed and mocked. The people in the garrison are basically all alone and helpless. There are two factors in this. On the one hand, it is because the current situation is not good and it is very difficult to do this work. It is dangerous, and you have to fight against pirates at every turn, and death and injury are inevitable. Therefore, those with families are naturally unwilling to do this kind of work. On the other hand, Beckman and Orgrim have had a restless heart for a long time. Therefore, when selecting team members, we also pay more attention to those guys who have no worries. After all, if someone is raising a family, they will not be tempted by you to go overseas to make a career, right? Just like these, when the strong men were having fun, the door was suddenly pushed open, and then Orgrim and Beckman walked in. Master Chewy, you are here. Everyone said hello to Orgrim first, and then two strong men quickly made room for Orgrim and Beckman. Orgrim nodded to them, and then sat down, not caring about it. Duo picked up a wine glass and took 2 sips of wine. Then Orgrim slammed the wine glass to the ground and said angrily, damn it, those bastard Marines dare to bully me. Orgrim's head is on, do you really think I'm made of mud? Beckman pretended to pat Orgrim on the back and said comfortingly, then what can we do, they are the Navy and we are the thieves. If we fight against them, we will not even be the thieves. Orgrim, are you going to go to sea and become a thief? Orgrim pretended to be hesitant when he heard this, but in the end he couldn't swallow the feeling and muttered, that's 29 million belly. We brothers fought and died in exchange for it. We had agreed to share 14 million among you all so that we could all be richer and find a wife to give birth to a baby, so we wouldn't have to do such dangerous things in the future. Live, so as not to die in the hands of pirates one day, and then even the settlement money will be swallowed by the bastards of the Navy. After Orgrim said these words, the faces of the other members of the garrison also became very ugly. Yes, our brothers are fighting to the death, and those bastard Marines are even giving away our life money. It's so ungrateful. Comparing it again, Mr. Chewy is still upright. So what can we do? Is it really the opposite? Beckman also said helplessly. After he finished speaking, he first observed the depressed and aggrieved expressions of the younger brothers around him. He felt that this was something serious, and then winked at a confidant. Orgrim and Beckman have been hanging around here for so long. It's impossible that they don't even have 1 or 2 confidants. Seeing that their boss hinted at it, the younger brother breathed a sigh of relief. He was the one holding the dead man's head today. This guy. I saw him slam the table and said viciously, when have our brothers ever experienced such birdiness? Fighting against the pirates is also fighting against the Navy is also fighting, what's the difference? Let me tell you, even if there is a difference, it is a good thing. At least we fought with the Navy, and the Baileys and benefits we got are real. If we fight with the pirates, there are still those bastard Navy who stab us in the back. Woolen cloth. As soon as his words fell, they seemed to stir up the atmosphere. A few unwilling guys got drunk and cursed angrily. I think Plank is right, who should we fight for our lives? Anyway, they have nothing to worry about, and there is nothing to care about. Isn't the capital in hand just a life-threatening loss? What a rebel! That is, this navy dares to steal money from our brothers, what do we care? Everyone's life is at stake, fight with them. When Beckman saw that everyone's atmosphere had been aroused and it was going very smoothly, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Then he patted the table and said, "Boss, our brothers have already said this. You look at it? Take note, if you are willing to bear this tone, we will not say anything. If you can't stand this tone, we will go with the fucking Navy. Selling this life to you is better than selling it to those bastard Marines. That's right, Mr. Chewie, please give me the right words. I, Hank, have a life like this. I only know that you can be successful and prosperous by following Mr. Hammer. Whatever you say, we will do it. Those bastard Marines who robbed us of Bailey, are they any different from pirates? As long as you give the order, Mr. Hammer, I, Gangplank, will be the first to take the lead and kill those bastard Marines." Orgrim's face also became serious, and he was silent for a while, and then he said, "You have all thought about it? After we fuck the Navy, we will never come back. In the future, we will never come back. It's a pirate. Damn it. What happened to being a pirate? I have been a guard for these noble lords for so long, and I haven't seen them come out to support us today. Even these bastard nobles are not good people. Collusion." Seeing this situation, Orgrim did not hesitate. While everyone's drunkenness and resentment were still lingering, he should work hard like this. Otherwise, if it continues, someone might change their mind in 2 days. I saw Orgrim. Rim slapped the table, and then roared, "Okay, since brothers are willing to sell their lives to me, Orgrim, then I, Orgrim, can't be a weakling without eggs. Those bastard Marines have robbed our brothers of the benefits. Everyone wants to fight for this breath. I, Orgrim, will lead my brothers to fight for this breath and vote for Te Niang's Navy. Yes, follow Mr. Chewie to fuck the special girl. Done, done." Seeing that all the gangsters were aroused by the atmosphere, and they were all limping under the influence of alcohol, Beckman also knew the importance of striking while the iron was hot. First, everyone had to get a voucher together. How to arrange this vote? Naturally, all the noble lords in the town should be cleaned up. As long as this vote is done, everyone will not be able to look back. Of course, they can only go to sea together to start a pirate career. I've had enough of those bastards today. The Navy is far away and we can't touch it now. Those bastard nobles are not far away. Let's go and rob them now, Beckman yelled. Plank is also very discerning, and he immediately responded, "Yes, I have long disliked those nobles, so I went to wash them today." Wash them? Damn it. Orgrim did not hesitate, stood up and shouted, "Okay, kill them first, and get all the equipment for me. Let's go into the town now and wash them away." As soon as the words fell, a group of hot-blooded, drunken, and resentful tough men all stood up, pulled out the machetes, axes, and hammers from their waists, and screamed one by one, as if they couldn't wait to rob. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 6. In a noble manor in the small town of Ogulin, the noble Lord Fox was holding a red wine glass and holding a concubine in his arms, gloating about something. "Ha ha ha ha, you didn't see it today," that Orgrim's face was so angry. Fox said with a big smile. "Sir, I heard that Orgrim is not a good-tempered person." "Didn't he get into a fight with those Navy adults?" the concubine asked softly. "Humph, that guy just dared to run rampant in the town, how could he dare to lose his temper with the Navy adults?" Mr. Fox said with great disdain. After a short pause and a sip of red wine, Mr. Fox sneered again. Does he deserve 29 million Baileys? You're just a piece of shit, but you still want to make a lot of money. Master, you have already disliked him, right? The concubine smiled and asked again. That bastard is arrogant and domineering. He even dares to charge protection fees for my ship. If he hadn't seen him as a fighter and relied on such a person to protect the town, I would have dealt with him long ago, Master Fox cursed. In fact, he just cursed and didn't dare to be arrogant in front of Orgrim. The reason was simply that he was afraid of being beaten. It's not like Orgrim hasn't beaten nobles before, but there's nothing anyone can do against him. This guy is really a cutthroat type of person in this town. When he thought of this, Mr. Fox began to gloat again. So what if you were running rampant in the town? When you meet the Navy master, don't you still be submissive? Master, when I hook up with the Navy, I will kill you bastard first. However, just when Mr. Fox was thinking about the wonderful life in the future, suddenly there was a burst of explosion and roar, and then there was a fire outside the window, and the sound of gunshots and wailing could be heard incessantly. This shocked Mr. Fox. Could it be that Fox Hunter's spark had some remnants? Quick, go and notify the garrison. Call Orgrim and the others. Mr. Fox shouted in panic. It seems that at this time, the first person he thought of who could save his life was the Kajgro Orgrim he hated very much. It's just a pity. Today Orgrim has turned against him. He smashed the head of a manor guard to pieces with a hammer, and the white and red parts were scattered all over the floor. Orgrim didn't even look at the corpse, and directly kicked him. He kicked open the door of the manor. Then Orgrim waved his hand and said, Mr. Fox is the biggest nobleman in our town. I think he is the richest in the town. Hank, you take people in to clean up. Got them. Don't worry, Mr. Hammer, leave it to me. Hank was carrying a machete and said with a ferocious smile. Then a group of strong men rushed into the manor, slashing everyone they saw, setting fires, smashing and looting. Orgrim was carrying a machete. Hammer, walking on the messy streets, although he has led people to become pirates and loot the town, he is not so crazy that he will not recognize his relatives. He is not prepared to rob the ordinary people in the town. The town's garrison, there are not many members, that is, number 70 or 80, but for this town, the vicious men of number 70 or 80 are scary enough. Orgrim was very angry when he kicked over a young man who was breaking down the door. He asked unhappily, what are you doing, kid? Mr. Chewy, isn't this breaking down the door? Smash it open so you can go in and grab it. The younger brother stood up and quickly explained. What is there to grab from these small businesses? We usually don't look up without looking down. Even if we have to leave, don't do such a shameful thing. Go and grab the nobles for me, Orgrim cursed. The younger brother smiled, patted his butt and said, yes, Mr. Hammer, you are right. I am also embarrassed. I will rob Mr. Scott's house now. Orgrim was wandering on the street, and he felt very sad when he saw that the tough men under him who were supposed to guard the town had turned into jackals one by one, leading the town into chaos and darkness. Emotion. After today's trouble, there will be no way out from now on, Orgrim smacked his lips and murmured. Beckman walked up to him at some point and said softly, in this era, if we want to achieve something successful, we have no way out, right? Ah ha 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 ha, you are right? Orgrim laughed. At this moment, Hank came over with a nobleman who kept wailing and begging for mercy. He threw the guy directly at Orgrim's feet and said, Master Hammer, this old guy Fox is crying and asking to see you. Orgrim glanced down and sneered, old man, weren't you still sarcastic at the port today? What do you want to see me for? Orgrim, no, Master Chewy, what are you doing? Fox curled up at Orgrim's feet with runny nose and tears, and asked. Do what? As the saying goes, there are no corpses for repairing bridges and roads, and there are gold belts for murder and arson. I have sacrificed so much for the town of Ogulin and for you noble gentlemen. In the end, I didn't even get a hair, and I still had to be bullied by those bastard Marines. What do you think I should do? Orgrim said with a sneer. Mr. Chewie, those are the Navy men. No, we didn't feel sorry for you for what those bastards did, so you just held your hand and spared our lives, Master Fox begged while holding Orgrim's thigh. Orgrim kicked Master Fox away with a fierce kick, and then said with a cruel smile, "Don't do this to me, you are sorry for my uncle's affairs. Still missing? Let me ask you, did you give me the settlement allowance for the 6 brothers who died 2 days ago? I'm ready, and I'm planning to deliver it to Mr. Chewie personally tomorrow." Mr. Fox quickly explained. "No need, I will pick it up myself today," Orgrim said as he raised the long-handled war hammer in his hand. "Mr. Hammer, Lord Hammer. Orgrim, you are the defense officer, you can't kill me. I am a noble." Mr. Fox shouted in horror. "I am no longer a vindicator, I am now a pirate, the Doom Hammer Hosgarot Orgrim," Orgrim roared angrily. As he finished speaking, he swung out the long-handled war hammer in his hand without any hindrance. He hit Lord Fox on the head with one hammer. It was like a watermelon exploding. The blood and sticky brains flew away, and the headless corpse swayed twice before being slapped on the ground without any movement. After shaking the warhammer in his hand to fly away the bloodstains, Orgrim lifted it up. He picked up the warhammer in his hand and roared angrily, "Young men, tell those damn bastard nobles who I am. It's Hosgarot Orgrim. It is the hammer of destruction that brings fear and disaster. Ha 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 ha, you are right, I am the hammer of destruction. Kill these bastards and steal their treasure," Orgrim said with a laugh. That night, the nobles of Ogulin town faced fear and disaster, and also saw destruction. There were 17 nobles in the entire town, big and small, and none of them were spared. They were smashed to pieces by the tough men under Orgrim. The fire burned all night, and an unknown number of people died. Even if there were not many people in the town, these nobles together must have had 200 to 300 lives. Many scholars of later generations considered this incident to be a typical incident of officials forcing the people to rebel. If those decadent navies in the North Sea had not provoked Khazgaros Orgrim at that time, perhaps the world would still be peaceful. It's been a long time. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 7. After a night of chaos, the riots in the town of Ogulin have basically calmed down, because there is no resistance at all. After all, the forces originally used to defend against pirates all turned into pirates overnight. This happened so suddenly that it was strange that they could resist. When the influence of the rural nobles was completely eradicated, the town was naturally restored. At this time, all the people in the town were gathered in the main square, and Beckman was giving a speech to these people. "Don't worry too much, everyone. We are members of a small town, so naturally we will not do anything too extreme. Last night was just a fight against the nobles who exploited us," Beckman appealed loudly. The people in the town were trembling with fear. No one knew what these murderers who had burned, killed, and looted all night would do. After observing the town, Beckman nodded secretly, and then said, "We, the Ogulin guards, have decided to go to sea and become free pirates. We gathered everyone here today to say goodbye to everyone." After pretending to say a lot of things like "Thank you folks for taking care of me over the years," Beckman finally got to the point. "Soon, we will leave Ogulin. Without the strength of our garrison, the future of Ogulin town will be difficult. Boss Orgrim is very kind and gave everyone a chance. Is there any chance now? Are you willing to go sailing with us? If there is, please come forward. We are worried that we have no place to distribute the treasures we snatched last night," Beckman said with a smile. At the port, Orgrim was also doing some work at this time. "It still doesn't work. This is not a big ship. It can't accommodate brothers like us. We have to sail a few ships and form a small fleet to go together. Ogrim looked at the ships in the port and said with some helplessness. The warships in the North Sea are all very ordinary warships, let alone the good ships that can be parked in the port of a remote place like Ogland town. That's not it. It's not that there are no powerful ships in the North Sea. The warhouse of the Kingdom of Germa is very good. The Don Quixote family, which has not yet turned to pirates, also has a powerful fleet. Compared with the North Sea Navy, these two power is the real local overlord in Bihai. Mr. Chui, we need to build more ships, otherwise we won't be able to fit even the treasures we snatched last night, not to mention the people. Gangplank responded with a smile. He has been a member of the garrison for several years, and has been taken care of by the two brothers. Although his life is not hard, it is not particularly rich. But now, he is just a member of the army. The pirates at night are all rich. They have so much wealth that they can't fit in the boat. With Lord Chui's arrogance, these treasures will probably be shared among the brothers. What do you get when you come out to hang out? No, is it just to get rich? Last night, these people may have been holding back a sigh of relief in their chests, or maybe because they drank too much wine and were a little hot-blooded, so they went to rob the town together. But today, they all saw the benefits of real money. It is estimated that even if Orgrim drives them away, they will still cry and shout to stay and serve Lord Hammer and become free pirates. As for the defense officer, anyway, they don't want to do it anymore, so whoever wants to do it can go do it. Orgrim nodded, then pointed at the ships in the port, and said, "Glank, you kid, take someone to pick out those properties." "Okay, I have picked out all the ships with large loading capacity and will use them for the time being." "Understood, Mr. Chui, I will take someone to pick it right now," Gangplank said very excitedly. Master Chui's words sounded simple, but what does it mean to ask him to lead people? That means that he is now a cotter. If he can improve his skills in the future, get up, your position is secure, and you can live and drink with Mr. Hammer, it's no problem. Gangplank went to pick up a boat. After a while, Hank, a strong man, was carrying this guy crying for his father and mother, and kept begging for mercy. The guy came over. He threw the man at Orgrim's feet, and then Hank said, "Master Hammer, I have brought the person you asked me to find. This guy is currently the biggest in the town. He is a maritime merchant. I heard him say that he has traveled all over the North Sea, and he even visited the Grand Line twice." As soon as Hank finished speaking, the businessman begged for mercy in fear. "Master Chui, Mr. Chui, please spare my life. I, Lenny, am willing to dedicate all my wealth to you, Mr. Chui." Orgrim did not smash the person to death without saying a word like he did with Mr. Fox last night. Instead, he smiled and said very kindly, "What do you think of me?" "Ocean, pirates," Lenny replied with some uncertainty. "Ha ha 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 ha, the boy is very brave." Orgrim laughed loudly, and then continued without waiting for Lenny, a small businessman, to speak. "You are right, I am indeed a pirate now, but I am also a very stylish pirate. After all, we are from the same town. As long as you are not those bastard nobles who feel sorry for me, I will not rob you. To be a pirate, although you have a bad reputation, you have to be a bit tough. You can't just rob everyone you meet. That's too low end. If you want to rob, rob from the navy, the nobles, and the world government. What's the point of just bullying the little people who are capable of robbing Tianlong people?" When Lenny heard this, he quickly thanked Orgrim and praised Orgrim for being very kind, and then asked, "Master Hammer, you came to me, do you need my help in any way?" "That's right, there is indeed a place where you can be used. Haven't you traveled to Bihai? Have you been to the Grand Line twice?" "Real or fake?" Orgrim nodded and asked. Lenny hesitated for a moment, but in the end he didn't dare to lie to Orgrim. After all, this old man is very easy to talk to now. When he smashed someone's head last night, he was not merciless at all. Many people in the town privately did not call Orgrim by such a lofty name as Doomhammer. Instead, they all called him the brutal skull crusher. Yes, I have run there. I have been to most of the sea areas and islands in the North Sea, but for the Grand Line, the most I have been to is Sentin Island, Lenny responded. Sentin Island, Orgrim frowned slightly, feeling something familiar, but he couldn't quite remember it. It's the kingdom of Alabasta, Lenny quickly added. Ah, Alabasta, it's a famous desert country. Just say it. Why don't you give me a fix on Shenting Island? Orgrim waved his hand and said with some dissatisfaction. Yes, yes, Master Chewie, that is what you taught me. Lenny quickly nodded and admitted his mistake. Since you have traveled to so many places, that's fine. You are still of some use to me. Go get me your charts and voyage diary. I'm leaving now and I happen to be short of these things. Orgrim was not polite to him and started asking for these things. Lenny also breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that this hammer man really has no intention of confiscating his property. By the way, the navigators from your caravan will also be sent to me. Is that okay? Orgrim smiled and asked. No problem. It's an honor for Mr. Chewie that you like him. I'll have someone prepare and deliver all the things you want, Mr. Chewie. Lenny said quickly. Ah ha 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 ha, go ahead and be smarter. Orgrim waved his hand. When Lenny ran off to prepare something for Orgrim, Hank, a tough guy, looked at his back and asked Master Hammer, this guy ran away with so many places, you must be very experienced, right? Going to sea without him. As a boss, how much experience can he have? The navigators under him are the real experienced people, but they can only make do with it. When I get the chance, I still need to find some powerful partners. Orgrim said without any care. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 8. After selecting a ship in the port to leave, a group of pirates happily loaded it with all the treasures they had grabbed last night. So many nobles were plundered last night, and the supplies required for navigation are also very sufficient. Wine, grain, dried meat, and the like are also packed full. It is estimated that it is enough to support 500 people for more than a month. Lenny's little businessman's diary, charts, and navigators were also sent. I don't know if it was to please Orgrim, the big pirate, but he also consciously sent a Sentin Island, which is the permanent record pointer of Alabasta. Beckman has also arrived at the port at this time, and they are now preparing to board the ship and leave here. The small fleet was a miscellaneous mess, with all kinds of ships, but the firepower was not very sufficient. All the 5 cannons on the port were dismantled and put together into the fleet. The entire fleet only had 12 cannons, and only one person had one weapon. There are also many muskets. The Predator is our flagship, but it looks really shabby. If I find a chance, I need to get some good boats. Orgrim smacked his lips and said. The Predator is the ship owned by the 2 brothers Orgrim and Beckman. They usually use it to hunt whales. In the town, they are also considered people with some money. In addition, I have long wanted to go out to sea and make a fortune. I usually spend a lot of money on this ship. There are not many cannons installed, so I put all the cannons that were removed from the port on the Predator. But the real weapon of the Predator is the huge whaling crossbow. Now this crossbow has been modified by Beckman. Once the arrow is hit, the crossbow will immediately activate the mechanism and eject 2 crossbow hooks from the inside. In an instant transform the originally flat crossbow arrow into a cross-shaped 3-dimensional crossbow. Of course, this transformation is not for whaling, but for ship hunting. An arrow is shot on the enemy's ship. When the crossbow hook is opened, it is equivalent to being stuck. Then the ship accelerates, and the huge impact angle directly hits it, and then it is a hand-to-hand battle. With the level of this ship, looking at the whole world, of course it is nothing, it can even be said it's very low end, but in the North Sea, Orgrim even has the confidence to go head-to-head with warships. I have already inquired about it. Mignon Island has the best shipyard in the entire North Sea, specializing in building ships for us pirates and other shady people. As long as there are enough bailies, there is no problem in building a good ship, or even building one. The fleet is not a dream either. Beckman lit a cigarette, bit it on his mouth, and spoke very calmly. That's great. After we kill the Navy at base 103, let's go to Mignon Island to build ships. Orgrim said with a smile. By the way, I went to look for news about Niemann. I heard that the news there is also very well informed. Beckman nodded and said. When he mentioned Niemann, Orgrim's original smile also disappeared, and his eyes were slightly sad. Seeing this, Beckman did not continue to discuss the matter. He changed the subject and said, we have just recruited more than 50 people in the town, all of whom are willing to go to sea with us. Now counting, we have more than 100, nearly 200 people under our command. It's a bit large, at least it can drive away all these ships. Orgrim smiled and responded. But we can't count on these newcomers when we really charge. You also know what kind of people are willing to come with us at this time. They are all guys who are disgusted by the people in the town, just local hooligans. Beckman flicked the ashes of his cigarette and said. Ha 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 ha, what are you afraid of? It sounds like us pirates are no longer disgusted with dogs. When the time comes, those who can fight a few more times and survive will naturally become elites. We will follow this route in the future, Orgrim said without caring. What route? Beckman asked, raising his eyebrows. Recruit more people, fight more wars, eliminate the bad and keep the good. Over time, naturally, there will be some vicious people who dare to fight. By then, the world will be so big, where can we go? Orgrim said with a laugh. You are right, but someone needs to be able to control these bastards. It seems that I have to work more on my strength. And you, Orgrim, you are our boss now. Captain, you must not let your skills fall behind, let alone be complacent. You are indeed powerful now, but the world is so big that there are countless strong people, you have to maintain this advantage all the time, Beckman said earnestly. Orgrim also nodded very seriously, and then said with a smile on his lips, don't worry, I am a staunch realist. I believe that strength is the basis of everything. This kind of course things will not fall behind. Just understand. Beckman smiled and nodded. At this moment, Gangplank came over and said, Master Hammer, brothers are ready, should we set off? Orgrim turned his head and glanced at the town of Ogoran again. After all, he had lived here for 16 years, and he still had some emotions. But soon, these emotions were suppressed by him, and he murmured softly, although Ogolan is good, he is too small to accommodate me. Where can I accommodate you? Beckman asked with a smile. Orgrim stretched out his hand in the air with confidence and arrogance, and said boldly, where can I, Kazgaros Orgrim, be accommodated, do you still need to ask? Of course it's this vast ocean and this world where heroes stand together. Ha 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 ha, this kind of confidence is worthy of you, Beckman also responded with a laugh. Let's go, Orgrim waved his hand, and then boarded the Predator. With the Predator as the flagship, there were about a dozen ships of various sizes, which looked very irregular, and there were no standard ships, so they left behind the port of the small town of Ogolan. This fleet, which looks very messy, even very unprofessional, and a bit down and out, will eventually set off a wave of madness in the world. At the same time, their first enemy, well, after all, those nobles have no power to resist, they can only be regarded as lambs to be slaughtered, not enemies. Their first enemy is the bastard navy at Bihai 103 Naval Branch Base who dare to take advantage of Uncle Orgrim. At this time, Major Funk had just returned here with Fox Hunter Sparks Head, and was bragging about this operation to his boss, Colonel Banu, in the base commander's office. That Orgrim didn't dare to disobey our navy at all, so he handed over his head honestly. Colonel, I have confirmed it, that is the head of that bastard Spark. This guy really fell down. It's bloody bad, and it fell into the hands of those country bumpkins, Colonel Fink said with joy. When Colonel Banu saw that his subordinate Fink had really brought Nasbuck's head back, he completely let go of his worries, and a smile appeared on his lips. Of course he was happy. After all, he didn't do anything, just talked about it, and got 15 million Baileys. Is there any other better business in the world? The Admiral's office just sent 200 million Belly in military expenses yesterday. It will be used as the working capital of our Bihai 103 branch this quarter. You can withdraw 29 million from it, and by the way, we can wipe out the information about the Fox Hunter pirates. Go up and ask for Spark's head to be sent over. Colonel Banu said softly. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 9. Navy admirals are a very special class. There are only 4 admirals in the entire Navy, scattered in the east, west, north, and south. The admiral of the East China Sea is the one who wants to eat the Millennium Dragon. There are no admirals in the rest of the seas. Although his name sounds great, he can only dominate the world. In terms of military rank, he is still only a colonel of the Navy branch, and admiral is just an official title. Any big boss from the headquarters can deal with them. But the big bosses of the Navy headquarters will not come to Shanghai for free, especially now that the situation in the New World Sea area is very unfavorable for the Navy. The Navy's main focus is on the New World. It wants to try to see if it can reverse the decline. Therefore, the Navy headquarters currently does not pay much attention to the 4 seas. At this time, the Navy admirals are very powerful. After all, as long as the Navy headquarters does not interfere, their 4 sea admirals will be the local tyrants in the world. The Admiral of Bihai is basically in charge of the entire Navy branch in Bihai. Some of the colonel officers of the headquarters who are directly assigned by the headquarters are somewhat obedient and disobedient. However, all military expenditures for each branch every quarter are distributed by the headquarters to the admiral's office, and the admiral then distributes them to each branch. As for the corruption involved, there is not much to say. Although the Navy in Bihai as a whole is degenerate, it has not degenerated to the point where it cannot even pay out military expenditures. After all, these people still have brains and know that they can survive in the North Sea mainly because they have enough military power. If they dare to deduct military expenses too harshly and their navy will not be able to eat, then who will be willing to fight with the navy? Fight thieves and other evil forces? Bihai 103 Naval Branch's military expenses for this quarter had just been distributed from the Admiral's office 2 days ago. Colonel Banu hadn't yet figured out how to embezzle this time, so it was all stored in the treasury. The entire 103 branch is still very wealthy. Counting the balance from the previous quarter, as well as the bribes and protection fees collected from within the jurisdiction, there are a full 700 million Baileys. Colonel Banu didn't think about how to arrange the money, but soon there was no need to bother him, because on the 3rd day, Orgrim's Grand Fleet had already arrived at the island where the 103rd Naval Branch was located. Port. The incident of the garrison degenerated into pirates in the town of Ogalan has not yet been reported. After all, it is a rural town, and communications are very underdeveloped. Generally, information is spread by caravans. At this time, the small town of Ogalan is in desperate need of development. The first task is to establish order and self-protection. How can there be any thought of caravans? The chaos in the North Sea is getting more and more serious, and few caravans will go there at leisure. Ogalan, so word spread slowly. The only phone bug that could contact the Navy had already been smashed by Orgrim with a hammer, So Orgrim didn't worry about what preparations the 103rd Navy branch had. Unlike the Marine headquarters, Marineford, and some important military ports, naval bases all over the world are basically built in small towns. The ports are not complete military ports, and the comings and goings of ships and caravans are normal. Orgrim and the others did not raise the pirate flag at this time. They all pretended to be a caravan and entered the port of Branch 103. The sailing in the past 2 days was considered good. There were no big storms and waves, so there was no unreasonable attrition. After parking the fleet, Orgrim and others gathered in the port to transfer some from Ogulin. The local specialties brought from the town were sold. After all, you have to pretend to be a little bit like you. Orgrim, Beckman, Hank, and Gangplank are gathering together at this time. The 4 of them are currently the leaders of the unnamed pirate group. There is no sense of vigilance. Almost 200 of us, ferocious and strong men, landed at the port, and no one suspected anything, Orgrim mocked in a funny way. They have formulated 2 plans. The first one is naturally like this. They will pretend to go to the island first. The second one is to attack directly if they are discovered and suspected. At present, it seems that the development of the situation is quite to their liking. Beckman smiled when he heard this and said, "This is where the naval base is after all. I guess except for us who are so bold, the other pirates and so on, you didn't want to come over and attack here, did you?" Over time, the Navy naturally became relaxed. Orgrim also nodded, feeling that what Beckman said makes sense. Although the Navy in the North Sea is not very powerful in combat, it is a navy after all. Behind him is the maritime overlord, the Navy headquarters, a big backer. Ordinary pirates, who would come to attack the Navy base if they have nothing to do. That's fine, catch them off guard. Orgrim said in a deep voice. "Master Chui, how should we arrange it?" "Fight now," Plank asked. "I think this town was also cleaned up, right?" Hank suggested greedily. "Ha ha 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 ha, we are all here, naturally we have to wash together, but it is still the same old rule, give me a little style, don't stare at the common people, there are 100 common people, and none of the nobles have money, if you want to rob them nobles." Orgrim said with a smile. "Don't worry, Master Chui, we are all quality pirates," Hank said with a laugh. "But we have to seize the town after we settle the naval base," Beckman said at this time. "How do you think we should fight?" Orgrim looked at Beckman and asked. "We all have little experience, and if we arrange too much and are too detailed, we will be more likely to get confused, so I think it's better to keep it simple," Beckman suggested after thinking for a while. The so-called lack of experience is actually to protect everyone's face. To put it bluntly, it is the current team, except for the original defense team members. Except for the elite, the rest are rubbish. Generally speaking, everyone is a mob. Even if they make some exquisite plans, they will definitely be full of loopholes when executed. Instead of doing this, it is better to keep it simple and let everyone play freely. Seeing Orgrim nod, Beckman knew that he must have understood the key to this, and then continued, "In my opinion, it is still the old rule. Orgrim, you are responsible for taking the lead and directly destroying their morale. I led my brothers to fight in the chaos, trying to defeat them in one go. The Navy's firepower is relatively powerful. They are basically equipped with muskets. Mr. Hammer, how about we still attack at night?" Everyone couldn't see clearly at night, so they didn't dare to shoot randomly, so they wielded a machete. Who was afraid of whom? Plank thought for a while and also suggested. "Ouch. You have something good. I want to go there together." Orgrim looked at Gangplank in surprise and said. "Ha ha ha ha, Master Chui, you and Master Er taught me well." Plank flattered him and said. "Yes, I also think that a night attack is better. When the naval base closes at night and they have all rested, Orgrim, come and break down the gate of the base. We will rush in directly and kill those officers first. Let's do it all at once. A sure win. Beckman also nodded and supported. Hank, do you have any comments? Orgrim asked Hank, a strong man, again. Hank shook his head, patted the machete on his waist, and said Hank, are not as smart as you guys, Mr. Hammer, and I don't have as many ideas. Mr. Zooey, I will do whatever you tell me to do. Anyway, I will just rush in when the time comes and I will chop down anyone I see. Ha 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 ha, that's right, I'll kill everyone when the time comes. Orgrim smiled first, then nodded and said, okay, then let's attack at night and kill these bastard Marines. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 10. Late at night, the moon is dark and the wind is high, it is a good day to kill. The town on the island of Naval Branch 103 is called Rumper. At this time, the town of Rumper has basically rested. After turning off the lights, only a few flickering street lights on the street are still a little bright. From these lights, one could vaguely see a dozen or so ships moored in the port, with many people disembarking one after another. The town has rested, and so has the naval base. Most of the Navy have already entered the dream. It is not that there are no Navy keeping watch, but these Navy keeping watch are also dozing off, and there is no need to be vigilant at all. After all, this is a naval base. There has been no trouble for many years. For them, vigil is just a daily routine and there is no risk. At this time, at the gate of the 103 Naval Base, the 4 Navy officers responsible for keeping vigil at the gate were chatting to dispel their sleepiness. Just as they were chatting happily, Orgrim's sturdy figure gradually came over, and the headlights in front of the naval base also shone on him, attracting the attention of the 4 Marines. Who? What are you doing here at night? Get out, a Navy waved to Orgrim very rudely and said. Mr. Navy, I have something important to report. Not only did Orgrim not leave, he even quickened his pace. Stop, if anything happens, come back tomorrow at dawn. A Navy quickly raised his musket, pointed it at Orgrim and yelled. Orgrim stopped hesitantly after hearing this, and then said with a sad face, but it's really urgent. While talking, Orgrim also took out a few golden Baileys from his pants pocket, as if he wanted to bribe the Navy master. The gun-wielding Marine saw that Orgrim didn't seem to be a murderer, and seemed to really have something to say. He looked at Bailey in his hand again, and couldn't help but feel moved. If you have anything to tell us in advance, the superior officers have all rested now, the Navy said to Orgrim. A smile appeared on Orgrim's face after hearing this. He quickly took 2 steps forward and said, that's it? I heard that pirates are coming to attack London. Bull Town, so I came to report the news quickly. Ha 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 ha, pirates attacked the town of Rumper? Are they crazy? This is where our 103rd Naval Branch is located. A Navy laughed when he heard this, and took the gold belly from Orgrim's hand. Tell me, which pirate is so bold? Another Navy also asked with great disdain. It's Orgrim, Doomhammer Hosgarot Orgrim, Orgrim replied quickly. What Doomhammer? Have you heard of it? A Navy asked his companions beside him. Never heard of. I seem to have heard that. Didn't Major Fink go to Ogulin 2 days ago? The defense captain there seems to be named Hosgarot Orgrim. Why did he become a pirate? Could it be that he became a pirate in one fell swoop because he was bullied by Colonel Funk? Are you coming to take revenge on us? Ha 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 ha, this joke is really funny. After a few people laughed at it, the Navy who accepted Orgrim, Kim Bailey, said to Orgrim again, don't worry, he is just a country bumpkin. Even if they dare to come, we will kill them. You may not be able to kill them, Orgrim said with a smile on his lips. What do you mean? Do you look down on our Navy? The Navy frowned and said with some displeasure. You're right, because I mean, Orgrim looked at the Navy with a bright smile, and then said in a cold tone, "I am Hosgarot Orgrim." As the words fell, Orgrim kicked him on the chest of the navy in front of him. This kick was so powerful that he was kicked away and hit the wall of the naval base. There was no movement in an instant. Before the other 3 Marines could react, Orgrim had already swung the sledgehammer behind him. Orgrim is already tall, and the warhammer in his hand has a long handle, which has a wider attack range. There is nothing fancy about it. He just swings it in a circle. Powerful power bursts out from Orgrim's hand, and it is heavy. The warhammer instantly took off with the remaining 3 Marines. There wasn't even a wailing sound, blood was spilled all over the ground. When Orgrim stabilized the warhammer in his hand, there were already 3 more tattered corpses on the ground. "Bah, what a damn waste," Orgrim spat with disdain and mocked. Without picking up the few gold bellyries that fell on the ground, Orgrim walked towards the gate of the naval base with his warhammer. At the same time, Beckman, who was originally ambushing in the darkness in the distance, also came here with more than 100 men. The gate of the naval base was locked from the inside, and even the 4 vigilant navy outside could not to open it. You can only wait for the people inside to open it after dawn, so there is no key. But Orgrim obviously does not need any keys. He walked to the door, moved his body, raised his arms, and raised the warhammer. He stood up. Then he saw the muscles in his arms surging, and then Orgrim took a deep breath and growled open. The next second, the warhammer in his hand was swung out. The 3 minutes had not passed yet. The warhammer had its own strength, and Orgrim was the most reckless man among the reckless men. He was strong and powerful. With one hammer blow, the force was overwhelming. There was a muffled sound of bang, which shocked Beckman and the others' ears. Then they saw that the door that originally blocked Orgrim's front was smashed and flew away. "Go out and fall 4 or 5 meters away." "How tall is this guy Orgrim?" Beckman swallowed and murmured. The huge sound also woke up the navy in the naval base, but they didn't understand what was going on. Although the sound was loud, it wasn't the sound of cannons. Coupled with the long-term peace, I didn't think about the attack at all. "What's the situation? Call someone to take a look. It's late at night, do you want anyone to sleep? What a wonderful dream I just had." But just when these Marines were complaining, Orgrim had already rushed in with his men. Near the gate of the naval base is an empty square. On both sides are the Navy's barracks for resting. At the same time, it is close to the square. It is also convenient for gathering. Just when a Marine opened the door and stretched out his head to see what was going on, he hit Orgrim's sledgehammer head-on. With a crack, his head was smashed directly, and blood spattered everywhere. Then Orgrim rushed directly into the barracks. The next second, wailing and fighting began to sound, and soon it spread throughout the entire naval base. At this time, even the most arrogant person knew that something was wrong. Then, the Navy began to organize a counterattack. "Gather at my place, assemble at my place. Turn on all the lights," Major Fink stood in the square and roared. At this time, many Navy were gathering around him, but more Navy were fighting in the dark with some pirates who didn't know where they came from. "Those pirates, he's really cruel, he kills everyone he sees, he's basically a desperado. It's dark and windy at this time, and he can't see the situation at all, and Fink doesn't even know how many pirates are rushing in. Damn it, what the hell is going on?" Fink cursed. However, as the Navy was gathering one after another, he gradually gained confidence. Just when the headlights in the naval base were illuminated, Fink also saw a familiar figure leading him. A group of pirates covered in blood and holding machetes, hammers, axes and other miscellaneous weapons rushed towards him. "Who are you? You are that Orgrim," Fink shouted in horror. "Ha ha ha ha, it's me, I was looking for you, and you showed up," Orgrim laughed loudly, then accelerated his feet, swung his warhammer and rushed over. "Shoot, kill him. Shoot, Major Fink also roared.